Oh,
Guten Morgen, Bear Nation. How is everybody? We're great, Bear. Thanks. You're welcome. I'm glad to hear that. Does tea count? Yes, Mama Tea. You can drink the tea. I'll drink the coffee. Holler roast, dark roast this morning. What's up, Esandring? B-Mons, Josephus, 5x5. Thank you. For those that may be unaware, maybe you're a relatively new subscriber to the channel. You've never seen a coffee time with Bear before. You're like, what is that? It's Monday. You're supposed to do the brief. I'm not supposed to do anything, especially right now, because technically I'm on a sabbatical. So if you guys would do me a favor and not tell anybody inside of my organizations that I'm on the internet right now, I'd really appreciate that. Okay. It's just our little secret. What's up, Buckshot? So, coffee time with Bear is different than a brief. Shalom, Miss Lovely Dudley. Now the secret's out now. The Dudleys know. Coffee time with Bear is different than a brief in that more conversational, way more laid back. And my intent here is to deliver value to you through conversation rather than, hey, let's all get spun up about whatever dumb stuff is happening in the world right now. Okay. So it's chill. And as part of being on a sabbatical, I need the chill. And I would submit to you, I think 2024 has the potential to be an absolute shit show. And we all need as much chill as we can get so that we're operating logically and righteously, not out of fear. Cool? Cool, Bear. All right, good talk, everybody. As such, of being on a sabbatical, that means you're going to see me less frequently than you normally would, and probably at unscheduled times for the next month or so. More sporadic for the next month or so. We, be it Yah's will be blessed with another human being in our family in approximately 1 month at almost the exact same time that the Refuge Ruckus is going down.
Yeah.
And so I professionally intend to come up for air sometime after the ruckus. In the meanwhile, I've got different things that have been prioritized that I need to execute on right now. One of which is mental, emotional, spiritual well-being, so that every time I look at this rectangle, I don't feel like screaming 4-letter words and choking MFers out, because that's not productive. Bless you, Sister Dudley. And so here we are. I'm officially on a sabbatical, and we're going to have a conversation, coffee time with Bear. I do want to tell you guys about a company party that we had last night. And then I figured we'd do some Q&A if you guys are cool with that. Do you think that's cool? You can hit the thumbs up if you think that's cool. You can hit the thumbs down if you don't think that's cool. Buckshot, I agree. Sometimes choking MFers is called for. The problem, Buckshot, is I have no shortage of MFers to choke. And I also have a really good brother, really good friend, Dr. Trevor Wilkins, the Angry Viking therapist. And when you spend your life in constant choking out MFers mode, you basically wear out your central nervous system. You have an amygdala problem, as my brother likes to say. And so we're going to give the amygdala a rest. It's not for a lack of folks who need to get choked out. It's for self-preservation and the preservation of life, so that when it's time to resume choking MFers out, I'm still a human being, not a monster. Was it Nietzsche commented a lot about that? You stare into the abyss long enough, the abyss starts staring back at you. Be careful that you don't become the evil that you are hunting, that type of thing. So here we are. So company party. We were blessed to have a company party last night, and it's something that we so CEO Bear hat now. A lot of you guys like the business content. which there's on Patreon this morning, somebody asked, hey, when can I get another bear sticker? And I did a 27-minute video on bear sticker, which you would think like, there's no way you could talk for 27 minutes on a sticker. And it's like, actually, I can. Cost of goods and fulfillment and sourcing and unequal weights and measures and labor and teams and all that. It's 27 minutes on a freaking sticker. But CEO bear hat, company party. Why have a company party? Why? Many reasons. The first is, and maybe the most important, I wanted one. That's what I want. I don't want a bonus at the end of the year. I want to put on a collared shirt, some clean jeans, and some boots that don't have turkey shit on them, and go hang out at a great restaurant with only people that I know and love, take the place over, eat a 38-ounce bone-in tomahawk ribeye, and drink Johnny Walker Black. And that's what I did. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I got to enjoy it with a whole bunch of people that I love. And I like seeing, even if it's one day a year, my brothers all dressed up and looking nice. And my sisters, the ladies inside of the organization, all dolled up and looking pretty. And for a lot of us, because we're very practical, homesteady people, most of us are rolling around in, dirty shoes or boots and dirty jeans and a hoodie. That's how we roll. And so for a lot of us, it's the one day per year that everybody gets dressed up. And it's nice. It's nice to play a little dress up and act a little civilized and have taste the nice things at a minimum once per year. So I like it. It's a treat for everybody else. And more so, I want people inside the organization to know that we can do this. This is attainable. What I mean by that is, however you define wealth and success, whether it's more land and more sheep, or replacing your piece of crap truck with one that is newer and works, or having a savings account for your children, or tomahawk ribeye and Johnny Walker Black, whatever your thing is that you define as your personal goal, that can be accomplished through the work that the companies do. And the work that the companies do is part of I gave a little speech last night, which is apparently required as the CEO. The work that the companies do, no matter what it is, whether it's Bear Independent Media or Refuge Medical or Grindstone Ministries or Caleb House or anybody else, they're all just different tools in the toolkit that we are blessed to use daily for the preservation of life and to reach people for the Father. And because the Father is so badass, he loves us so much and he's so good to us, we can accomplish our own personal goals inside of the goal, the mission of the organization, to save lives, forsake not the widow and the orphan, to perpetuate normalcy, and that's attainable. And so one of the things I like about the company party is it's almost like entrepreneurially just a little flex to let people know this is entirely doable. You can have this or whatever version of this you want, righteously, morally, ethically, if we're all rowing the boat in the same direction. And so it was good. And I get to hang out off the clock with a bunch of people that typically we're just executing all day, all the time, constantly. And so it was a good party. We thoroughly enjoyed it. My wife and I, we had 7 big paper bags full of leftovers, from the appetizer bar, and our table's entrees and blah blah blah. And so we were shoving stuff into freezers last night, and I took out in the freeze dryer, and it was cool. So we're it's 11 p.m. and we're like, where can we shoehorn this tray of grapes and strawberries so that we can freeze dry it, and it's not throwing the company party for the amount of people that were there and for the level of service. It's about a $10,000 investment. And that's worth doing once per year at a minimum because of A, the joy that it brings me, B, the joy that it brings everybody else, C, that little taste of everybody inside the organization. Hey, this is entirely doable. Like, if you wanted to do this once per week in your household, we have the vehicles, we have the tools here inside the organization for you to have whatever, to get whatever it is you want out of life, because we work for the Father, and he loves us, and he will provide to us as long as we are walking in his will and operating in righteousness. And so it was a really good time. I enjoyed it very much so. And I think it's good for people to get a little taste. Iridium Group, what's up, brother? Hey, I saw you messaged me on Instagram, bro, and I didn't repost it yet because #sabbatical. But I either will or won't get around to it. And neither one of those things is a value judgment on how awesome of a brother you are. I'm just, I'm in sustain mode, not improve mode currently. Paul Scott, that's a good word. Never underestimate the power of relaxing and recharging with people you love and trust. Take time for you and the family to just be. 100%. You bring up the word trust. I was talking with Bob and Liberty last night, and trust is a concept. First of all, I'm all in on trust. I either trust you or I don't. There's no gray area for me with that and with 1,000 other things in my life. And what we were talking about was 2023 was very challenging for us as an organization and as individuals because, frankly, a significant number of people left the company or were invited to no longer be a part of the company. And that mostly had to do with ill-fit ideologies. Can you or can you not adhere to the core ethos of the company? And again, still CEO bear hat. If you have somebody on your team, even if they're a killer, they're a rainmaker, but they're not ideologically aligned, they have to go. They have to go. Simple as that. And it's painful. But the more you do this, the longer you do this, the sooner you can identify when somebody's just here because it's convenient for them, as compared to they are 100% bought in with the mission of the organization. And so if you don't have that critical ideological alignment, and you can take the same concept from a business and apply it to a mutual assistance group or your militia or your faith group or whatever, if they don't have that high level of ideological alignment, even if they're a 18 Bravo Special Forces medic, or they're a doctor, or they're super important, critical to the operation, if they don't fit, they have to go. Because if you tolerate somebody who doesn't fit, it'll ruin the fit for everybody else inside of the organization. And so 2023, in a lot of ways for us, was that. And it was painful because we love the people we work with. Straight up. And we are a very loving group of people. We are givers. You need a shirt, I'll give you this one. You need a truck, you need a house, you need whatever you need, we got you. That's how we roll. And when you pour into somebody like that and it still is a bad fit, when they have to go, it hurts. And so I was telling Bob and Liberty yesterday, we think of trust in relationships to our left and to our right with other people. And it's a very important facet of our relationships to our left and our right. We also got to think about trust vertically with our relationship with the Father, because in order for something to be trusted, it has to be tested first. I have to test first to know that I can trust. And 2023, in many ways, for our organization, felt like a huge test. Some parts of which we passed and some parts of which we failed. And the parts where we failed, itemize those, detail those, do an AAR, after action report, and figure out why did we fail? What can we do better next time so that this failure wasn't spent in vain, so that we can learn from it, so that we don't repeat these mistakes next time. It was a test. The whole calendar year was a test. In many ways, with Yah, about will you or will you not serve me? Will you chase profit or will you save lives? Will you go whore in Babylon or will you stay here and stay rooted in my word? Will you do the good, hard things instead of the bad, easy things? And what I was telling my cohorts here last night was, because we've been tested, I feel like we can now be trusted with more, which is a biblical concept. He who can be trusted with little can be trusted with much. But I got to test you with the little that you've got to know that you have the reps and sets to be able to steward a little bit before I give you more. And that's how a relationship works, right? And we know that whether we adhere to it or not, we know that with our left and right relationships with other people. But we forget that with the Father, even though this concept, critical concept, comes from the Father's word. It comes from the Bible. If I can trust you because I've tested you, I can give you more to steward. And the test produces growth that makes you a person that's capable of stewarding more than you've already got. And that's what, like, why do people who win the Powerball go broke a year or two later? Because they don't have the reps and sets of stewardship to be able to have that mass of wealth and use it for provision, protection, blessing, use it for righteousness. I did the same thing when I was a kid. I grew up so damn poor that when I sold my first company and I had a 7-figure bank account, I didn't know what to do. So I bought property, I bought a house, and I blew $1 million on cocaine and whiskey in just under 24 months because I didn't know what to do. I didn't have those reps and sets of stewardship. I had been hand to mouth my whole life to that point, that now that I have all this wealth, as a kid who's 22 years old, I didn't know what to do. And so I blew it because I hadn't been tested with that yet. And I made those mistakes so that now I won't make them again. Now you put $1 million in my hands, the last thing on my mind is cocaine and whiskey, because I don't do coke anymore and I've already got whiskey. And I don't drink whiskey today like I used to 20 years ago. Praise Yah. And so this period of testing, if you feel like you're going through a period of testing, understand that we are being proven by the Father to determine what level of stewardship we can bring to the table. How much diligence do we have? Will we operate in righteousness even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable and inconvenient? Can you keep his word? Will you keep his word? Because his word will not return to him void. And if you can keep his word, he will keep his word, because his word will not return to him void. And he who can be trusted with little can be trusted with much. And so 2023 was a giant, organizationally a giant kick in the balls for us. But we made it. And that has set us up for the moves that we need to make in 2024. And a critical concept here is who, not how. It's an entire book written on this, I believe, by Dan Sullivan. Who, not how. You know what the end goal is. You know what you want to accomplish. And we focus so much on the how. What are the courses of action? What's the P&L statement look like? The profit and loss. How are we going to get this thing? How are we going to get these sales? How? How's important, but it's not nearly as important as who. I was also telling Bob and Liberty last night, and Callie and Yankee and others who were seated at their table. Bless you, Spartan O Negative. I appreciate that. We're all still here. Well, I am too, and I appreciate you. We were talking about this last night. I said, hey, I've been looking at the daily sales numbers that are coming in for Refuge Medical, and I really appreciate that there are still daily sales numbers coming in from Refuge Medical, because you may not know this, but I don't love shilling for Refuge. It's not something that I enjoy doing, but I also know that if I don't maintain the awareness of the brand that Refuge has, that there's now 26 families that aren't going to get what they need out of life, right? Refuge is a vehicle for them to be able to pay their bills and raise their children, which is why I do talk about Refuge on camera. But it's not something I love doing. And so we've known for 18 months that long-term, the sustainability of Bear being the chief shilling officer of Refuge, that's going to fall apart, because in my soul, it's not something I love to do, which means it's just a matter of time before I don't do it anymore. And if there's catastrophic effects of me not talking about Refuge anymore, we should probably mitigate that risk. And so they have been with back-end processes and strategic partnerships and email marketing and SMS marketing and affiliates, and all that is being handled by the team, what I call my junior executive team. And they're doing a good job of it. That on the days where Bear doesn't go live on the internet, Refuge still has sales. And that's a huge accomplishment in 2023 and 2024, amidst all the chaos of the world and the weakening of the US dollar and all this socioeconomic chaos. They are getting it done. And I forget how freaking young they are too.
They're babies.
They're babies. Me and my wife were talking about this in the car last night. I said, technically, it'd be a stretch, but technically my wife and I could be the parents of anybody on the junior executive team. And I forget how young they are because they execute so well. Right? And that's something that they should be proud of, because they're out there just killing it, getting after it, taking pressure off of me. And so we've been tested in 2023, and because of that testing and that proving, we're actually set up to be in a better position for 2024. And so if you find yourself in a period of testing right now, you're feeling pressure and uncomfortability, good. My brothers, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, for the proving, the testing of your faith. And I guess the last thing I'll say about the company party, still CEO Bear Hat, one of the primary challenges that we have as an organization that frustrates the crap out of me, and I'm trying to learn to regularly see it as a good thing, not as a bad thing. Which, by the way, if you're in business, you're going to get in business, understand that your primary job is to solve problems. That's what a business does. It solves problems for its customer, and you solve problems for yourself inside of the structure of the business day in, day out. And the more problems, or the employees, yeah. And the more problems you solve, the better you're going to get at this. That's why there's things today that the junior executive team will run up against that they'll be concerned about, that to me are a nothing burger, because I've seen those problems before. They haven't seen those problems. So they'll bring them to me, and I'll say, hey, if I were you, I would handle them this way. Go try it. Let me know how it turns out. Just because I've seen that problem before. And so the more problems you solve, the better you get at problem solving, right? And so I'm trying to see this particular thing. What is it, Bear? I'm about to tell you. As a problem that requires a solution set, that's a challenge that should invigorate me, rather than something that just pisses me off. And that particular challenge is that there is no, we lack, Refuge and Grindstone and Caleb House lacks any model to look at in the rest of the world that we could glean lessons from. And I'm in the world's premier entrepreneurial coaching group, the Arete Syndicate, with Andy Frisella and Ed Milet, and it's money well spent. Those guys really know what they're doing, but they don't do what I do. They don't do what we do. Their core founding documents are not this blue book. And that's not a value judgment on them. It's just a key difference in between us and them. Their businesses are not e-commerce and content creation. Andy with First Form, yeah, you could argue e-commerce, but it's not first aid kits. With Caleb House, nobody does what we do. And I can tell you that because we are establishing case law precedent with the things that we're doing in the field, which means had somebody endeavored to do the things that we're doing in the jurisdiction we're in, there'd already be case law precedent, and there's not. Very few people have endeavored to do any of the things that we're doing. And that's super cool on the one hand. It's also obnoxious AF on the other, because there's nobody to ask, hey man, what would you do in this situation? Because nobody's been in these situations before. And so it creates myriad problems that are novel problems. They're new problems that need to be solved regularly. And when your mission statement and your purpose is the preservation of life, you feel the pressure of solve this problem now or bad things happen to good people. And so there's a lot of perceived immediacy with these problem solving because the stakes are so high. And so that has absolutely been a challenge to this point. I'm trying to see that more of a blessing, that we get to decide how we're going to deal with this problem. We get to decide what we're going to do. And I don't want to make mistakes, because if you make mistakes in our line of work, people could die. And the challenge with that is entrepreneurship is very much making mistakes so you can learn from them, right? And so it's a very high stakes game. And so because it's a high stakes game, you don't want to make the mistakes. But the truth is, making mistakes is critical, because of all the things I know how to do, I learned how to do them by trying 100, 1,000 different ways to solve that problem that didn't work until I stumbled on one that does. What's that?
So by messing up.
By messing up, exactly. And so, so now, and praise Yah, the mistakes that we've made thus far, and there have been myriad. I'll be the first one to tell you with Caleb House, we have totally made mistakes, because you learn by doing, right? And the Father, because he's amazing, has insulated us from the hardcore negative ramifications of those mistakes. There's been mercy in that he's allowed us to make mistakes without people dying, without bad things happening to good people. But I want to shorten that learning curve as fast as possible with things like that. And because there's nobody to ask, and people say, well, you should reach out to Operation Underground Rescue. I've got them in my phone. They don't respond. Oh, what about Craig Sawyer from Vets for Child Rescue? Craig's a great guy. He's also busy. And to my knowledge, they don't do restoration. Well, you should call DHS. HSI, they have oversight on human trafficking. Yeah, believe me, we have. There's no, and that's the thing, right? Idealism increases with distance from the problem. Then you get the you should fairies. You should do this. You should do that. How come you didn't do this? Bro, trust me. We've tried to do everything that can be done. And so in any event, the lack of models to look at in the world as to how to operate and structure these businesses and these ministries inside of the enterprise has been a significant challenge to this point. You're the blueprint. What a challenging blessing. Exactly, sister. But the challenging part is not to be underestimated. It's absolutely challenging, and I wear the weight of it. And I'm trying to get better at wearing the weight of it, in that it's a burden to be borne happily and to trust in the Father that he factored in my stupidity when he came up with this plan, and that he is sovereign over all things, and we're not gonna, his will be done. And I believe his will is the restoration of these kids. I believe his will is the saving of lives with Refuge Medical. I believe his will is the donation of Bibles through Grindstone. I believe his will is the perpetuation of normalcy through Bear Independent. And I'm trying to walk in all of that to the best of my ability. And so that's the after action report on the company party. We do a little Q&A. We typically do Q&A on Patreon these days, and so I'll just briefly give you the rules to Q&A. One is you will be nice to each other in the chat, and you will be nice to me, and I will be nice to you in the chat to the best of my ability. We're going to respect one another around here, and if we can't do that, one of us is going to have to go away. Okay?
It's probably not you, seeing that it's your channel.
I'm on sabbatical. I can go away that fast. Bless you, John McMillan. So first rule is we're going to be nice to one another. The next rule is please put your questions in all capitals, because that will increase the likelihood that I see them. If I see them and I want to answer them, I will. If I see them and I don't want to answer them, I won't. And if I don't see them, I can't. If somebody with a blue wrench answers your question in the chat, your question has been answered. And I reserve the right to refer you to one of the more than 7,000 pieces of content that we've made in the last 7 years. So I may say, hey, go watch this video, because there's a huge corpus of work that's been produced thus far in answering questions from y'all. Tracking, Yankee Watchdog, tracking. Shalom, brother Badger. I got to hang out with Badger a little bit yesterday, too. R. Farrell, I appreciate you back. Have you committed on the Texas border? I don't know what you mean by committed. I'm tracking as to what's happening on the Texas border. Have I personally committed?
Stand on it?
Do you mean, do I have a stand on it? Commented. Okay, there you go. Thank you, Guardian Survival. Shawn Michael, bless you. Thank you so much. Shawn Michael, you were a great wrestler back in the day, man. Absolutely. Shawn Michaels, I think it was, actually. Never mind. Disregard. You're probably pretty good in the ring, though. Just guessing with a name like that. Have I commented on the Texas border? I've not committed to the Texas border. I'm not going there. My commentary on the Texas border has been, in the last few days, lacking because hashtag sabbatical. But I have been talking significantly about the border over the last several months. I think what's going to happen next is we are going to see the term lawfare, the using of the state courts versus the federal court, which is they're already working on, to determine who's in the rights there on Texas. The Supreme Court of the United States of America appears to be siding with the Biden administration. And so I think in a standoff between Abbott and between Biden, Abbott has way more to lose than Biden does in this particular situation. Pastor Joe Fox has had some very good commentary on this on the Viking Preparedness Patreon page over the last few days. And so if you are subscribed to PJ, you need to watch what he's been saying on this. If you're not, his Patreon, I think, is $1 a month base entry. It's incredibly well worth it. And I will tell you, I have been encouraging him for years to increase the barrier to entry to his Patreon, because $1 is not even kind of worth the information that he provides over there. It's easily $10-20 a month, easily. But I do think we're going to see the courts get involved. I don't think Abbott's going to back down. I do think that the 25 Republican states standing up to back him and sending troops to the border is a good thing. A lot of people are talking about this could lead to Civil War II, and it could, but I think that we're weeks, if not months, away from a catalyst that could cause that. And the last thing that Biden wants in 2024, going into an election year, is that. There's a new bill, I believe, that is in the Senate, and the House has already said it's dead on arrival. But essentially, it would limit border encounters to no more than 5,000 a day. Well, if you extrapolate out the math on that, that's what, 155,000 a month, give or take. 1.8 to 2 million people per year, give or take. And then anything over 5,000 encounters per day, the Border Patrol could then shut down the border and say, that's it, no more people. That still doesn't solve the problem, but the Biden administration sees that as a compromise of getting serious on the border, to appease the Republican constituency, while also still allowing people to flow through the porous southern border. Ben Valley said, I heard 27 state militia on the way to Texas, plus 25 states, plus 700,000 truckers on the way there now. Yes. I've also seen the truckers headed there. People are saying that Abbott is in on it. I don't know enough about it to comment on that. I have heard several people say Biden is a World Economic Forum shill. Let me tell you something, guys. I am subscribed to the World Economic Forum newsletter. Does that make me a shill for the WEF? No. You know why? Because I want to know what they're up to. I want to know what they're talking about. What are their talking points? What are their agendas? When they go to Davos, what are they discussing? What were their key takeaways from the discussions they had in Davos? Because the reality that I have to live day to day is in many ways downstream from what they determine reality should look like at these meetings. And so I want to be up to speed on what the World Economic Forum is discussing. And so I get a daily brief sent to me by the World Economic Forum in my email every morning. It's there. It doesn't make me a WEF shill. And if you elected me as president or governor of your state, I would go to the World Economic Forum meetings. I would go representing you, because I want to know what kind of shenanigans those people are up to. That's the best way I could glean that intel is from being there. So, what's up, Alex Toder? Why is Skipper doing adulteries, babe?
No, he has. Cannot divorce unless there's whoring. Does this mean adultery, or does it mean dealing with other gods?
Well, idolatry is spiritual whoring.
True.
Skipper, that would be the kind of question that I would need a lot more context around in order to give you an answer. And I'm not suggesting that we do that here with 1,287 of our nearest friends. Typically, in my role as pastor bear now, which is something I'm still getting used to, we would sit down at this table and have a cup of coffee and go through this situation for at least an hour, if not 2 or 3 hours, to try and be able to rightly divide the word and come up with a course of action, a recommendation for you. So in a YouTube video, it'd be really hard for me to give you good advice, and I would hate to give you bad advice that would affect your relationship with your rib for the rest of your life. How's the baby, Adam wants to know?
Not here yet.
Not here yet. It is still interred.
Yeah. Somebody asked if we were ready for the baby, and we are ready. We just still got some time.
I'm unafraid. I'm excited, honestly.
Yeah.
Nick Rhodes, that's a good question. What's the difference between ego and being a strong man able to handle difficult situations with people? Is some ego necessary to survive? So purely physiologically speaking, absolutely, some ego is necessary to survive. One of my favorite quotes is attributed to Babe Ruth, who said, "It ain't bragging if you can do it." And a lot of people who on the daily operate at like a 1 to 3 When they see somebody operating at a 7, an 8, a 9, a 10 out of 10, they tend to think that person is very egotistical because they mistake confidence and competence for ego. I have people that don't know me tell me all the time, you're very egotistical. I'm not trying to be. I'm very competent. And I also surround myself with very competent people. And so I have ego. We all have ego. And I try to subordinate my ego so that I can make good calls and operate in righteousness. Comma, I'm also very competent at a lot of things. And that doesn't make me a jerk. It doesn't make me an egotistical a-hole. It makes me good at what I do. Now, if I was to flaunt all the things that I'm good at and talk a bunch of trash while I'm doing them, check it out, guys. I'm going to cut this tree down right here. I can do it. You can't do it because you suck, but I can do it because I'm the best. Like if you lack humility, see, a key component of competency is humility. And humility is not, Andy Frisella just did a podcast on this. It's great. And he was saying, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking more of everybody else. And humility is not beating yourself down into the dirt and not expressing your giftings and your talents and your delights. Humility is realizing that everybody else has their own giftings and talents and delights and is just as fearfully and wonderfully made in the Creator's image as you are. But that is not at odds with your giftings and your talents and your delights and your core competencies. There are some things that I'm good at that I don't like doing. I'm a wizard on Microsoft Excel. I don't like Excel. I'm also pretty damn good with a chainsaw and a piece of heavy equipment. I'm pretty good at operating businesses. I'm pretty damn good at TCCC. I'm pretty good at instructing and teaching. There's lots of things that I'm good at, but I don't try and flaunt it. I'll never say to you, I'm the best instructor and you need to listen to me and only to me because I know everything I'm talking about. Or definitively, you have to buy this chainsaw and anybody who buys this other chainsaw is a piece of shit and they don't know what they're talking about. Or, it's Caterpillar or nothing. If you're out there running a Deere or a Komatsu or a Kobelco or a Link Belt, man, you don't know shit, man. No. And so you require humility, especially when you're competent. But those who aren't competent and confident will mistake your competency and your confidence for ego, and they will try and tear you down to their miserable level because they resent the fact that you are living more closely to fulfillment for you and more closely to your potential than they are, which shines the light on them not bettering themselves, not taking steps for personal development, personal responsibility, not living up to their true potential. And so ego is a thing for sure, and you want to subordinate your ego to make the best calls that you can. But other professionals, when you see somebody doing that thing that they're great at, whatever it might be, you recognize the talent. You recognize the discipline to be committed to the talent, to develop and grow the talent. That's not ego. That's not that person being egotistical. When I see my brother on Shabbat pull out a guitar and start singing and playing guitar and worshiping the Creator, is that him being egotistical? Or is that him using giftings and talents and delights that he has that I don't? The two are very different things.
Let's see. In general, what all veggies do y'all grow in your gardens and what grows best for you and yours?
What is currently growing best in our garden is weeds.
Zucchini does really good. Like, I don't even have to try with zucchini. All I got to do is stick that seed in the ground and it goes berserk. But we grow zucchini, cucumbers, peppers, tomatoes, broccoli, cauliflower, lettuces, greens, herbs like dill and basil and rosemary, lavender. I'm trying to think. Potatoes, celery, spinach. That's all I can think of right now. Prego brain.
Prego brain. We need to get taters in the ground.
We do.
It is that
Soon.
that
Best.
season, tater season.
But zucchini, out of all of those, by far does the absolute best.
What is your opinion on state-funded militias versus a MAG? That's a good question. Speaking from my own personal experience, what I've found, and every time I say this, I get so many upset people in the comments, and I love you, but I don't care. Because you asked me, and so I'm going to give you my opinion, my experience. What I have found with state-funded militias is they're not nearly as serious as they need to be in order to adequately address the problem. And I say that understanding that I don't have current firsthand intel on the Texas State Militia, but I do have prior firsthand intel on the Texas State Militia. And there are a lot of people who are well-intentioned, God-fearing, country-loving Americans that are playing, that are LARPing. There's very much an element of gear whoring, not a whole lot of training, and the training that is offered isn't stellar. And so when I was tertiary to TSM, Texas State Militia, there were a lot of people who were just playing. Now, quantity has a quality all of its own, tracking, the ability to bring that quantity to bear, I don't think exists quite as well as they think that it does. If you were to call up every man and woman in the TSM, I don't know that you're going to get everybody. And now quantity is less of a factor, which brings us back to quality. And I've seen a lot of guys, goo goo gaga over my Cry JPC multicam carrier. The JPC is a jumpable plate carrier. That's what the JPC stands for. And I know it's cool because Garantham wore it, but the Texas State Militia has an incredibly low probability of jumping out of an airplane, thus needing a jumpable plate carrier. And a lot of the guys I've seen wearing them, myself included at times, had no business wearing a plate carrier because their PT was shit. And so I've seen a lot of that. A lot of people, fondling their $4,000 to $8,000 AR-15 platforms as compared to people training, getting mud and dirt and water on their shit and in their shit and under their fingernails and doing the reps. And so another thing is, let's say that the goal for you is to have security affected by the militia. The militia doesn't report to you, and the militia can only care so much about what your opinion is on a situation versus a mutual assistance group that's much closer grassroots to you, constituted by you and your people, where you can set the training schedule, you can set the SOPs, you can set the standards. You and your people have authority over what you do, when you do it, where you do it, how you do it. Chris Watkins, you have to be willing to lead. I was told years ago, don't ask one of your employees to do something you're not willing to do or you don't know how to do. 100%. One of the things when I was project managing projects that I took great pride in was that I had at least passable experience and capability with every facet of the job site, all of it. Now, there were other people who were way better at it. My climbers who climb every day are better at climbing than I am. Concrete guys that are pouring trucks all day, every day are better at it than I am. Trenching crews, better at it than I am. Fiber and splicing crews, better at it than I am. You know, our crane crews, better at it than I am. But I could hop into any role on the job site and fill in for a day. And I did many times. And that also breeds so much rapport and respect with the teams that you're working with, where they know you're not some balloon full of hot air, that your giftings extend beyond the ability to read and decipher a profit and loss statement, that you understand we use these 4-aught crimps versus those 4-aught crimps because even though these ones are a little bit more expensive, they hold like twice as good as these other ones. And so that's why, yeah, 10 cents more crimp times 3,000 crimps on this job. Yeah, you know, it adds up. That's $300, but no rework. Got it. So I'll never question that again. See what I mean? And so you have respect and rapport with the people who are doing the work in the field. Did Twitch go to Israel? Do you have an update on him? I have no idea what Twitch has been up to. When you make bread with fresh milled flour, do you use sunflower lecithin? You can. In fact, Joseph's Kitchen right here has typically recommended sunflower lecithin, but they've been having a hard time getting it because of a little thing called the Ukraine war, because apparently most of it comes out of Ukraine. And so we currently have soy lecithin. And I know soy lecithin will make you shit in a litter box and question what your gender is. I'm super aware. But I'm also happy to report through lots of testing and evaluation, I've not tried to cut my junk off one time since I started using soy lecithin in our bread.
And we make it without it too.
And you can make it without it. It's just an emulsifier, right, ladies and gentlemen. Mama, how do I? Bear, just a random comment, but I wanted to say that Mrs. Bear is absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Mama. Aww, I concur. That's why she's 8 months pregnant. Do you have any advice for quitting cigarettes? I'm off THC recently, but nicotine is rough. Crystal, nicotine, of all the things I have put in my body over all the years, nicotine is the monster. Yep. I quit cocaine cold turkey.
I quit meth cold turkey.
I mean, I stopped drinking for years because I'm just done. I can't trust myself with this. I quit smoking cigars. Threw them into a fire on Shavuot last year. But there are nicotine pouches in my lower lip right now. It's hard. I had a 15-year love-hate relationship with Skull Wintergreen Long Cut and then Red Seal Wintergreen Long Cut. 15 years.
I think the thing to remember is it's 3 days.
Yeah, the physical addiction is 3 days.
Physical addiction is 3 days, which isn't that long in the grand scheme of things, like addiction-wise. Like other drugs stay in your system way longer than 3 days. But it's the habits that we form that are the hard thing to break. It's the having a cigarette after you eat.
Yep.
Lighting up whenever you get in the car. So it's those habits that you have to figure out how you're going to conquer. And once you figure that out, the 3 days isn't that bad. Take advantage of being sick.
Yep.
And
don't smoke for 3 days.
Don't smoke. And once you hit that 3 days, then all you have to focus on is changing your habits. And that may mean just not doing it for a period of time.
Yep.
That's how I did mine. I was just like, okay, I'm not going to go to the store. I'm not going to. And until you get past that initial urge. And, and what am I? I'm 5 months.
More than that.
Yeah. 6 months into having quit, and I still get cravings every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have to change my mindset. nope, don't need that, don't need that, don't need to think about it. And
so one of the things that, for me, just the mental framing of this situation is, and it's the same thing, honestly, for maintaining a healthy diet. It's not I can't have that. It's I am choosing not to have that.
yep.
I can have whatever I want. I can have a fat cigar and a deep dish pizza right now. I don't want that because my long-term goals are more important than my short-term dopamine rush of putting these chemicals into my body. Patriotic Pledge Keeper said, my wife and I had a shootout breakout just outside our living room window a week ago. Definitely reminded me I'm not in fighting shape I used to be and need to get some IFACs. Bro, I hope you're okay. Absolutely. The world is insane, man. Like, the world is insane. And that's, I got an ankle kit on right now. I got a bear fac right here. I got a Celox in my back pocket and a soft tea in my front pocket. That's awesome, Rain Cat. Sugar, that's a hard one. See, everybody that read the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Everybody has their thumb screw, right? Sugar for me, not hard.
Right.
That it's not hard for me. Nicotine, hard. And so what one person struggles with, another person can absolutely overcome without thinking about it, because we are all special little snowflakes. Harmony. What is the point of lecithin? It's an emulsifier. Carbs, hard. What's up, Mad Kelt? Shalom, brother. But even that, like, carbs, hard. Yes, I like carbs as evidenced by my fluffy body. Comma, just like replacing smoking with something else, this Quest brand protein chips are amazing. Quest brand peanut butter cups, amazing. The Legendary Foods chocolate sweet rolls that have 5 grams of carbs and 19 grams of protein in a chocolate sweet roll. Bro, one of those with a cup of coffee, it's amazing. And so that too, right? Because your environment is stronger than your willpower. So a typical Shabbat breakfast around here is on Erev Shabbat, or on day of prep rather, on Friday. My wife will get a dozen donuts, and then they are there for Saturday morning, Shabbat morning, for the kids to eat. And then we pile up on the couch, we break the Bibles out, and we study the Word. Well, it's super easy to walk past the dozen donuts and just dip your hand into the box once, twice, 4 times. And next thing you know it, you just put away 1,200 calories, empty calories of sugar and carbohydrates. For what reason? Especially on Shabbat, where I'm not going to go PT it off. So replacement theology. This is the one place that I'm into replacement theology. So instead of having that shitty glazed donut that does nothing for you, I got to have a chocolate sweet roll that has 19 grams of protein in it and 5 grams of carbs. And to me, it's a treat. I get to sit on the couch, cup of coffee in one hand, Bible in the other, shove my face. You know what? I'm feeling froggy. I'm going to have 2 of these monsters, 10 grams of carbs, 38 grams of protein, wash it down with a Jocko Mulk. That's 68 grams of protein, sitting on the couch reading my Bible, 10 grams of carbs, instead of a bajillion empty calories. And so carbs are hard until you just figure out some workarounds. Do this instead of that. That's it goes back to entrepreneurship and problem solving. Do this instead of that. You know what doesn't work. Keep trying things, and if they don't work, like Edison. Was it Edison who invented the light bulb? I didn't find 1,000 ways that didn't work, right? Oh, you failed 1,000 times. Like, no, I just took 1,001 ways to figure out how to make this thing. And so that's okay as long as you're learning from your mistakes. Alex Hormozy, who, if you're in business at all, you should be following, Hormozy knows his shit, talks about education, or rather learning, is the rate at which you change your behavior. And that's a really interesting way to define that. How quickly are you able to change your behavior based upon the data that you're getting? And so that goes back to awareness. Alex Hormozy, Big Timber, Hormozi, Hormozy, Hormozi. And so learning is the rate at which you change your behavior. And you change your behavior based upon the data, the inputs that you're getting, which requires awareness. Does this or does this not work? Well, if it's a matter of diet and exercise, it's really simple. Stand in front of the mirror and look. It's either working or it's not. And if it's not, try something else until it works. And it might take you, don't get disheartened, it might take you months, if not years, to figure out a diet and exercise regimen that works for you, not just in the results that it produces, but in your ability to adhere to it. Because if it's not something, and this is another thing Hormozy talks about, if this is not something you can do for 10 years, sustain, then what a waste of time to start it today. Shalom, just ordered a belt kit and a travel kit from Refuge last night. Awesome, Kevin. Thank you. I appreciate you helping us keep the lights on. You're welcome, Big Timber. Jacqueline Hernandez, what's going on? I've never struggled to break habits. I always struggle with the motivation and discipline to start new habits. Just replacement theology, man. Like I said, this is the one place that I'm okay with it. Because it works. It's psychological. You need something else to do because you have a stimulus and then a response. And so one of the ways to deal with that is stimulus, pause, response. And in that pause, you can exercise awareness, even if that pause is 10 seconds, right? And the further along you can push off your response, stimulus, pause, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Like you want to smoke less and you have that stimulus. Oh, I just finished my meal. I'm going to have a cigarette. Typically, you'd set your fork down, pull your smokes out, stick one on your lip, light it, and boom, it's instant, right? We'll start inserting pauses in there. Stimulus, pause, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. Now you just went from smoking a pack a day to 8 cigarettes a day. If you can build up to an hour in between stimulus and response. Another thing, especially with dealing with people, is don't respond immediately. It does a couple of things. First of all, psychologically, it gives you the room to make a wise judgment, a wise response, rather than to react. Second, it's a little bit of a power play. Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. It conditions the people who are causing the stimulus to pay you a little bit more respect. I don't have to answer immediately. I don't owe you an answer immediately. In fact, it's in everybody's best interest that I don't respond immediately, because immediate me might wrap his hands around your throat. Later me is going to have some more context and a cooler head. It's going to make a logical decision, not an emotional decision. What's up, Parlusk? Shalom. Daryl Subera, good morning. Gone to 119. For some reason, I can't find fellowship in my area. I need to find a place to do Sukkot this year. Everything else I can do solo. My husband is not on board with my walk. Yeshua. What Yeshua, Nancy? Now they're saying that if you drink coffee, you'll catch the zombie virus X. I'm dead. I'm done. We're all dead, babe. Mm-hmm. I'm like, maybe I'm insane. I'm willing to admit that. I'm 0% concerned currently. Shalom, Brother Gary. Currently, 0% concerned about disease X. Now, as previously stated, we all know they're going to try another one, right? 2024, 2025. Especially if Trump becomes the nominee and it looks like he's going to win. We've already seen this play. We've already seen it. My primary concern with the ZZX would be that it's actually deadly, unlike the last one that they rolled out. But currently, I have very little concern. You're a wizard on MSL. Yes, Cynical 1800. Hit me with a rock. Wizards are not allowed.
I don't know what disease X is.
Nobody knows what disease X is. It's the next. It's the next greatest hit from the big day reptilian overlord, World Economic Forum, CDC douchebags. Does Bear Independent and Refuge ship from the same place? No.
It says it on the shipping label, but it doesn't, in fact. That's just so that we get any return shipments.
Yeah.
But no, all the shipments from Bear Independent come from a third-party supplier, our printers, which are located all over the United States. So,
Bear, what is the best place to view or purchase The Way? What's up, Upstate? www.thewaydoc.com. Control copy. Click tab. Control paste. Control paste. Control paste. How's that right there? There you go. Right there. Good morning, James Crespin.
thank you, JC.
People behaving badly about disease X and Trump is more worrisome. Agreed. So here's the thing, man. More and more lately, as I've been reading this here big blue book, this phrase has been hitting me over and over and over again. And because it's everywhere in here, over and over and over again. In the prophets and in Matthew 24, which is Messiah, talking about the beginning of the birth pains, what shall come. And the phrase is, and I shall give them over to the sword, scarcity of food, and pestilence. The sword, scarcity of food, and pestilence. And I actually texted my pastor, Pastor Joe at Viking Preparedness, with that because he's been saying for years, there's three things that are going to get you. Starvation, people behaving badly, and medical. The sword, scarcity of food, and pestilence. It's the same three things. The sword, scarcity of food, and pestilence. And I bring that up because I earnestly believe, especially based upon the op that they tried to run with the Charlie Victor 19er, that these are manufactured crises that the big they, the Satanists in control of the world, want people to believe are legitimate plagues and judgments from the Father of sword, scarcity of food, and pestilence to control via fear the populace and to make the state God rather than to let God be God. I think that's a big part of what they're doing, whether they know it or not. But these manufactured crises of the sword, wars and rumors of wars and proxy wars and border invasions and terrorist attacks and the exploitation of children, the sword, and we see that going on. Scarcity of food, boy, do we see that going on. And I would submit to you, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, which is why everybody needs some food put up as much as you can, whatever your budget will allow. And then pestilence. Well, Charlie Victor 19er was an op. We know that. The CDC knew, and here goes my channel, don't care. That we know there's correspondence between the CDC and the FBI that they knew it was a lab leak weeks before they came out with the whole, it's from a Wuhan open air wet market. They already knew because what they were seeing on their test slides as they were looking at it could only have come from that lab. It wasn't a wild virus. It was a genetically modified virus. They knew this. But Never let a crisis go to waste. And so we ran a 3-year op, or they ran a 3-year op called Charlie Victor 19er to see what they could get away with. It's manufactured, literally manufactured. So some dude made that abomination in a hazmat suit in a lab somewhere, literally manufactured. So is it pestilence? It's a shadow of the pestilence the Father will send. It's nothing compared to the might and sovereignty of the Father. The scarcity of food that we see now is nothing compared to what the Father can do. The sword that we see now is nothing compared to what the Father can do. In the Gog and Magog war, which isn't anytime soon, go watch my video on that if you have concerns. Israel, which is the people group Israel, not the nation state Israel, Israel will bury the bodies for 7 new moons. That's 7 months. 7 months of cleansing the land of the dead. That's not nothing, y'all. That's like World War I level casualties. Because Yah said so. And so I think the big they want the general population, us, to be scared, because scared people are easily manipulated, and it allows them to further co-opt power and to make the state God, so that men can rule over other men. And that's why they're so afraid of people of faith, because there is no king but Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. There is no king, and he's King of Kings. Exodus 19:6, we're supposed to be a holy nation of priests and kings. You look at Revelation chapter 1 over here. Yehuda, Jude, Revelation chapter 1. We'll start at 1. Revelation of Yeshua Messiah, in which Elohim gave him to show his servants, us, what has to take place with speed. And he, Yahweh, signified it by sending his messenger to his servant Yochanan, to John, who bore witness of the word of Elohim, capital W word. What's the word of Elohim? And the witness of Yeshua Messiah to all he saw. Blessed is he who reads, and those who hear the words of this prophecy, and guard what is written in it, for the time is near. Yochanan, John, to the 7 assemblies that are in Asia, favor to you, and peace from him who is, and who was, and who is coming, and from the 7 spirits that are before his throne, and from Yeshua Messiah, the trustworthy witness, the firstborn from the dead, and to the ruler of the kings of the earth, to him who loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood, and has made us kings and priests to his Elohim and Father, Yahuwah. To him be esteem and rule forever and ever. Amen. That's why they're so afraid of us. Yeshua, Messiah, is King of Kings. Who are those other kings? It says right here in Revelation, as revealed to John, Yochanan, by Elohim, that we, set apart in the blood of Messiah, we have been made kings and priests to his Elohim, which is not a New Testament construct. It comes from Exodus chapter 19. That's why Messiah is King of Kings. We're the other kings, folks. And we don't bend the knee to anybody but the creator of the universe made flesh, Yeshua HaMashiach. And because we've got the unlocks, got the book, I got the playbook right here, we can see right through their bullshit. That's why they're so afraid of us. And we have to remember who has the power and authority here. Father Yah, Elohim, has the power and authority, and we work for him. So what are you so afraid of? Because 2 of us will put 10,000 to flight if you act like a man of Elohim, rather than just going along for the ride. I wonder what kind of crap they're going to pull in 2024. It's like, maybe it's just because I'm in sabbatical mode, but I got a hard time caring about what kind of crap they're going to pull in 2024. And I'll also say that part of why I have a hard time caring about what they're going to pull in 2024 is I've been preparing for 20 years. I'm at the end of my rope as far as how to prepare more. I got water. I got shelter. I got food. I got people. I got commo. I got intel. I got transpo. I've got logistics. Now, is there always room for improvement? Absolutely. I would submit to you that the people that I do life with are more prepared than 99% of the people on planet Earth. And I would also submit to you that as an ENTJ, I know that we could be 100 times better than we currently are at being prepared. But there's also a point of diminishing returns where I start making people afraid and robbing them of their joy if I tell them, you got to get ready because the book of Revelation says, because a bunch of people, even the hardcore preppers, even the hardcore believers that I do life with, are going to go, Matt, can't handle it. I'm out. I want to raise my toddler, not worry about the end of the world as we know it. I get that, because if you dwell too much on the end of the world as we know it, it robs you of your joy. What's the point of having a toddler anyway at this point? If the freaking world's going to end. It's stupid. So that's my thoughts on Disease X. Oh, it's almost lunchtime. You know what? I think we're gonna leave it there. Hey, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for being here. I appreciate your understanding. Again, I will reiterate, it's sabbatical time for me. That means you will see me more sporadically, to use my wife's term, than you usually do. And in a much less rigid structure. And I'm probably not going to read the brief all that much for the next 4 to 6 weeks. And I'm probably not going to be on this camera as much for the next 4 to 6 weeks. And that's going to be okay. There's 7,000 other videos and live streams at this channel and on Patreon. It's going to be okay. And I pray that you guys are still here when I come back. And if you're not, I understand.
I challenge everyone to find an old video and watch that. Like,
that's a good word. Yeah, go watch the backlog. So I'll see y'all when I see y'all. You guys and girls have a wonderful day. Shalom.